If I were to tell you a story about a thug, about a drug dealer, about a gun toting drug dealer that killed someone during a drug deal gone wrong, according to them, and therefore it was deemed something I had to do, what would you say? How would you view that drug dealer, that thug, that not only killed someone, shooting them in the back of the head as they ran away, but then took the police on a chase? When they got to that person's residence, they found enough drugs that was enough to be charging them with 2 felonies. They had an accomplice during this shooting, so there were 2 of them, one of the other person running away, shot in the back of the head. What would you say? Now that you have that information, let's dig deeper. Because this is the thug. This is the gun-toting murderer, drug dealing, police eluding individual that shot someone in the back of the head. This is his co-conspirator. Yeah. I'm sure when this video first started, you assumed the black man on your screen could potentially be that thug. No, this is a tale of 2 stories. This is Mason Schiller. This is Alec Adamson. Drug dealing thug, criminal history, had an individual that they claim it was a drug deal. I'm not going to dispute that. That's not my point. Whether or not it was or it wasn't, the point being, they shot him in the back of the head as he tried to run away. This young man was given 4 years, and it was dropped to an aggravated assault. They didn't even charge him or convict him of murder. Of the 4 years, he served 2 because he was given time served for the time he was serving awaiting trial. This young man, he got nothing. Absolutely nothing. Walk free. So when people always ask, why is everything racially based? I don't know. You tell me. Because see, the reality is that this young man, he wasn't the thug I was talking about. I already introduced you to him. This young man here is at the time, a 17-year-old football player in Texas. At a track meet, also ran track. He also ran track. I believe his main sport was football, but he also ran track. He's at a track meet where there has been confirmed some sort of, whether there was a tornado watch, but bottom line, adverse weather, storm, track meet had been delayed. Walks up to someone that he knows and asks if he's able to sit under the tent that this other team is sitting at. Actually daps him up. The guy says, sure, come sit down. And he's sitting under the tent. Unfortunately for him, 2 of the Caucasian teammates of this person, 2 large football players themselves. I believe Karmelo was more of a defensive back in stature, and the other gentleman was more of a defensive end slash linebacker, and his twin brother, also larger than Karmelo. They come over. What is alleged is that they confronted him to get from up under the tent, which, in my own opinion, is already an aggressive move, because if you're just a good sports or showing good sportsmanship, knowing that it's raining, it's not like it's a football huddle. It's not like it's a basketball huddle. It's not like you're talking strategy and therefore the opposing team shouldn't be there. It's a rain delay during a potential storm where there may be hazardous weather approaching. So this could have been a moment to show good sportsmanship. Hey, maybe even meet someone new, because clearly he knew someone under the tent. But no, they chose to be the judge, jury, and executioner. They wanted to be the bullies that they had been described as being in the past at school. They wanted to be the enforcers, as big football players might be. So instead of even getting a coach, an official, just another adult to mediate the situation, they chose to put hands on him and remove him from the tent. At which time, it is stated that he stabbed one of the brothers, who eventually died at that track meet. This here's the young man that was killed. So when people always ask, why is everything racial? I don't know. But we have to be realistic about the racial makeup of how things play out. The jury for Karmelo Anthony, the young black man that stabbed this young man, was all white. People can say, well, a jury doesn't have to have your color makeup and it doesn't have to. Okay, but when's the last time we've seen a young white defendant accused of murder being seen before an all-black jury? So we can't act as though differences don't exist. See, it's easy to not see something from your perspective or from someone else's perspective. But we just have to sometimes be objective and just look at it from a perspective that is not our own. We cannot make it seem as though that's not something to question. The prosecution voided 3 black jurors, women, because they were educators. That was the reasoning, at least partially so. Yet there was an educator on the jury. They just weren't black. So why would a judge allow that to happen when clearly there was an educator already on the panel? So why would that be your reason for eliminating others? Simple question, does that make sense to you? Of course not. So sometimes, after process of elimination, you dwindle things down and you come to the point and say, maybe it's racial. Now let me introduce you to David Pleasant. This is the young man that was killed by those thugs. Now, to continue that story, you have a situation where, yes, it is alleged And I'm just going to say what it said, that this young man was going to purchase drugs from Schiller and Adamson. Okay? Somehow, some way, we're going to say drug deal gone bad, at which point Pleasant was trying to flee the scene. As I stated, he was shot in the back of the head and killed. Now, when police went to investigate, Adamson was found at his home getting into the truck of a 17-year-old football player that was not Schiller. That football player then took the police on a high-speed chase, where after the truck then wrecked into another vehicle, they were apprehended and questioned. When the police asked Adamson about Schiller's whereabouts, he said he wasn't sure. Then when they mentioned the shooting, he clammed up and said he wanted a lawyer. So not only was there Adamson, the drug dealing thug, gun carrying, drug possessing, and Schiller, who actually set up the drop, because that is who the point of contact was meet us to get these drugs, or meet me to get these drugs, however you want to look at it. That is who set it up. So definitely an accomplice. And when all is said and done, there was a third party. Now, not involved in the shooting and the shooting in this case. In this case, there was no, third party. But what I'm trying to show you is there was someone else that was friends with the two of them that was willing to evade police, 17 years old, and go on a high-speed chase to get away from police. So that would bring in a third friend or associate that was willing to do illegal activity to get away. So these are the birds of a feather that flocked together. And yet, Schiller, who set up the drop, walked away with no charges at all. Scot-free, go home. See you later. The shooter was not convicted of murder, but a lesser charge of aggravated assault. Spent 2 years of a 4-year sentence, and to my knowledge, got out early for good behavior. So again, when we ask ourselves, why is everything racial? If you're just being objective here, you're seeing how the bricks are being laid to show you the clear racial divide between someone who at least had been physically contacted by someone else and chose to defend himself with a knife, and someone who was unarmed, running from the scene and shot in the back of the head. The one who did the shooting to an individual who was unarmed and running away got 4 years. The one who stabbed someone that was standing over him, had physically assaulted him, was was actually threatened by at least 4 people, because we know it was the individual who lost his life. We know it was his twin brother. We know it was at least 2 other friends. But that person gets 35 years. Now, the reason that I'm showing these two cases specifically is because one was in Denton County, Texas, and one was in Collin County, Texas. These two counties literally connect to each other. They're side by side. And actually, the Schiller kid in this case actually went to Frisco High. Frisco is where Karmelo Anthony was at the track meet where he stabbed the other individual. That was in Frisco, Texas. So they literally intertwine to an extent. Different counties, yes, but racial makeup the same, and totally different outcomes. So again, why is everything racial? I don't know. I'm willing to hear your thoughts. So get down in that comment section. Let me know how you feel. And depending on the comments I receive, hey, we'll do another video. But I'm going to end this one right here as I say to you. If we can't see the differences in how others are treated, sooner or later that sickle will swing your way. It's really that simple. It's not always going to be in your favor, because when those two white kids eventually kill another white person, they might be held accountable. But this young black man just wasn't worth the charges. That's the way the system seems to feel. And it's really sad. I don't have the answers, but I know people are getting tired. And that's where I'll leave it. Put your comments down in the comment section. Talk to me, I will respond. And like I said, if it gets going well enough, I'll do a follow-up video in reference to however people are interacting on this one. But again, I want to say this as I leave this topic. Death is never a good thing. I don't care what color you are. Your life should not end violently if you're doing nothing wrong. And this young man was doing nothing wrong to the point of being killed. Purchasing, I'm assuming marijuana, I don't know, is not a death sentence. So when you're not doing something violently wrong to someone, your life should still be intact. So we can question whether or not Karmelo Anthony should have stabbed the child or not. But we also could ask ourselves, was it his intention to kill him? As you hear the bell, that's the question. Was it his intention to kill him? Get down in that comment section, and I'll talk to you later.